to that. I apologize. I'm not sure what just happened.
I have it up if you'd like me to share it.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. See, that's exactly why I sent that to you as well. It must be the day.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, can you make it full screen, Cindy? So
That is supposed to be full screen.
and you can just go to the first slide.
That's a, no,
All right.
that's as full screen as I can get it.
Start your slideshow, Cindy.
Right there, yeah.
I forgot.
From beginning all the way to the left.
Yeah, I got it. It's just not wanting to.
Okay, yeah, something
There
happened.
we go.
All right. So you can go ahead to that first slide.
Not that fast, huh?
All right. So this is these are just some discussion points similar to what I'd put in the agenda. These are some of the things that have come up in the previous meetings. You guys have seen some of this already, but it's just sort of to help the discussion. In the last meeting, there was some more discussion than we've had in the past about competition pool. So that's really one of the things that we need to narrow down, whether it's going to be a recreation, mainly recreation, competition, or sort of a hybrid of the two. What type of amenities that we're looking to put in there. I know in the cost estimates, you saw some different examples. I have some um, even more examples in that for you to look at as well if you're interested in that. But the water play area slide, the lap pool, zero depth beach entry, the teaching exercise pool. These are all things that we've looked at in some of the past options. We've had a lot of indoor outdoor decisions, or I'm sorry, discussion. The future phase to possibly cover the pool that has come up several times. So we start with an outdoor pool, but build it so that it could be covered in the future. Obviously, the cost and all of these things are going to determine both the size and the cost of this facility. Um, the type of pool we want, more of a traditional type pool or the separated spaces like you've seen in some of the cost options. Um, the site itself, and we know that this site is walkable. We know what the current use is, the future use of this site in addition to the pool. If Hicks is a site that we are moving forward with, then what are the future uses? How will that affect the feasibility study and the cost? And then just the overall goals of this pool. Obviously, we want it to be multi-use functionality, inclusion, all ages, abilities, skill levels, family friendly, and revenue generating. So, okay, you can go to the next slide, Cindy. So the next three slides are just if you needed sort of a refresher from the pool option list that we have that was presented at the last council meeting. If you have any, additional questions on these, just again to sort of help facilitate the conversation. So I'm gonna, I guess at this point, sort of turn it over to the committee to let you start discussing. If you want to go back to, if you have any questions or want to see any of the pool options, we have option 1, 2, and 3 available. And then Cindy, for right now, you could go back to that last slide just to kind of keep everything fresh in everyone's mind. So Mayor Pro Tem Harris, are you still here? Sorry, I can't see everybody now.
I'm here.
Okay. And Commissioner Bridges, you said, is here as well now? Yes. Awesome.
Yes, ma'am, he's here.
Okay, great.
I
So-
do apologize. I actually missed your presentation, but I saw the slide at the end.
It's right here, and we're gonna keep that up just to kind of help with talking points for the discussion. And
Okay.
then all three options are also of the cost estimates. And I don't think you were at that meeting, but you probably got that in your agenda packet. But they're here as well if you need to look at those. So just ask, and Cindy can bring those up on the PowerPoint.
Okay, so Commissioner Bridges and Commissioner Tovey, do you have any questions or any comments?
Yeah, I would like to know Tina's, uh, recommendation. I mean, obviously, I think that we ought to have a pool that allows us to do competition because, a lot of discussion has been around the cost of doing a pool and whether or not the city can afford it. And it just seems to me that if we start out with a pool that can, generate income, I feel comfortable with going forward with something like that because I truly believe that if we have a pool that is a competition size, has lanes where swimming teams can come to Granville County to have tournaments, that would be a way that, in the long run, this pool could help pay for itself. Now, that's just my opinion. Um, and I know you talked about indoor, outdoor. I think that if we make the decision to have a competition swimming pool, seems to me we almost are saying we want one that can eventually be covered. Because I believe last time we had a meeting, Tina, you said that, a lot of teams have competitions during times when the weather
The
was
seat and
not,
carry my help.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
I think
I don't know. Hold on one sec. I'm in the whatever this room is. Hold on, over here. All right. Somebody try to call Miss Ellen.
But
I
Cindy,
apologize.
so I guess I was trying to say, Tina, I'd be interested in knowing what or hearing what you think. Because you have a better feel for, the recreation area. Um, I would love for us to have a swimming pool where we could have tournaments so we can make money.
right.
Now that's what I would like. And it seems to me if we decide on a competition swimming pool, we are pretty much deciding that at some point we're going to cover it. Correct?
Yes. I think if we do a competition pool, um, we'll start making more money if it's covered, but obviously it's going to cost more money to cover it as well. But if that's the way we're going to go, or if that's the way the board would like to go, probably covering that. Honestly, we probably need to look at covering it right off the bat because we're not. Otherwise, we're basically going to build a competition pool for recreation use until it is covered, and then we can have practices, during the year and the tournaments. And I've been looking into some AAU swimming and different things like that because tournament swimming isn't as prevalent as say baseball and softball, but it's definitely a niche, and the facilities that are out there, we could certainly bring probably programs in to do that type of thing and the whole tournaments here similar to the baseball tournaments. But that being said, I think our population and the citizens now, I think, would benefit more from the recreation facility. And again, this is my opinion and based on just what we see at Rucker and just sort of the, the climate now as far as aquatics goes and things like that. I think I think something that's zero entry for the lower skill level swimmer that has an area where we can teach swim lessons. So definitely having that recreation piece. I think that is, if we're going to move away from Rucker, I think that's what's important because again, we've got some kids that stay right around the stairs because that area is 3 to 4 feet, and a competition pool would start out at about 4 feet. So you won't have the ability to have the younger age groups in there for the recreation piece. And I know Commissioner Bridges, that's also a big want for you as well for the community, especially surrounding Hicks. So I think the competition piece is great, and I think that will help us to recoup some money. Pools don't tend to ever recoup everything, unfortunately, but I think it's a great service. And so to me, the recreation piece of it is a good starting point. Having some of the water play, the zero entry, that also makes it very accessible to seniors, and it makes it very accessible to people in wheelchairs or that have any type of mobility issue, which is something we don't have here. We don't have that in Vance County. We don't have that in really any of the surrounding counties unless you go into Durham and Wake County. And I think the cost of getting into some of those pools is a little prohibitive. So I think that would be a big, I think it would be, people would see that and we would get people to come to even the recreation piece of the pool. It would be a big draw. So, and then teaching lessons, wanting to be able to do that year round, especially in an area that we don't tend to, we're not able to teach a lot of lessons, especially at Rucker. One reason for that is lifeguards. If you have a year-round pool, then you're able to pay a little bit more and keep more guards, come in with the maintenance contract, that type of thing, so that they can pull from other places to get guards. So it's I think if we were building this right now, I would probably go with option 2. It's not competition, but it's got the recreation piece and lap swimming. So again, for seniors, you could have some teams during the summer would probably still want to utilize a couple of lanes for practicing. But I think we could go, we could do something like an outdoor recreation piece, and then look at bringing the competition later and start off with that being outdoor. If you're just covering the competition part of the pool, it's not going to cost you as much as if you were covering a big piece like pool option 1 that we have. That is actually, that facility, you saw pictures of that earlier, is actually a covered facility, and obviously it's larger, so that's going to cost more. But if you just cover the competition part and the recreation piece was more just for the summer, then you could cut some of your costs that way. So I think it really comes down to what we can afford, and then and how we want to phase in the different pieces. If competition remains one of our priorities, then I feel like we need to find a way to fit that in there. I think initially, from just the early on conversations about the pool, the recreation piece seemed to be the most important, and just having it walkable so people could get to it, be able to use it, would not have to drive to Rucker. And so to me, it seems like maybe the highest priority is recreation, and then secondary is competition and that ability to generate more revenue. We could also probably charge less to get into a recreation pool because we're not trying to cover as much cost. So, and I feel like that's an important piece too. So,
and the recreation piece, the recreation piece would be more conducive and accessible to our senior citizens, right?
yes, sir. It would give them, it would give them well, depending on how we built it, but if we do a zero entry, then yes, they'd be able to walk into deeper water. You can set the pool up so that the lap lanes, you could come in through steps that are a little bit easier to access. They wouldn't have to necessarily walk through a bunch of children playing to get to the lap lanes. So there, there would be some opportunity for it to be a little bit safer. And then the zero entry, again, you can roll right in with a wheelchair, with a water-based wheelchair. So that's kind of a fun piece of that type of recreation pool. So.
Can I say something?
I was gonna, yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, CJ. It seems that we're talking as if we've already decided that we're going to have this pool. And I'm sure, and I would agree with it in the future. Obviously, there's some huge costs involved. I understand what Tina is saying about the recreation side, but I also understand what Commissioner Bridges was saying about the competition. And we've got to look at the fact that if we have just a recreation pool with just a couple of lanes, there is no way that in the future we could afford to expand on that without disrupting the whole pool. So if we're going to have a pool, why don't we do the big pool, the competition pool in the first place with a cover? Otherwise, the costs involved in putting a cover on at some later date could be as much as adding a new pool, for instance, or something like that. I'd like to see the plans again with I think it was option 2, was it, with the 6 lanes of competition and the smaller pool, the play area? Was it option 2?
Option 1.
Option one. I'd like to see those again, because we could accommodate maybe you say the people with disabilities that need maybe a wheelchair access into a pool, or for non-swimmers to learn to swim. My worry is that if we go with a smaller, just recreational pool, there'll be no way that we can actually expand on that at a later date. Would you agree with that? Or...
Cindy, can you go to option 1, please? Thanks. I think it would be, it would definitely cost more in the future, I think. And there again, that's why I think the recreation versus competition pool is a big part of this discussion, because if you were just to build a competition pool to start off with, then I don't think then we would have a revenue opportunity, but you wouldn't necessarily be serving the citizens currently. So
right. Well, this concept here has got the recreation, a small recreational pool, a children's play area, and the competition.
right,
It's got the 3 combined, right?
right.
Yeah. See, to me, if we just had the other one, the costs involved, and then the disruption, of course, you'd have to close it all while you're rebuilding a new pool or putting a cover on it. So, and I'm saying we're talking as if we've already discussed it and said, yes, we're definitely going to have it. We need to set a date, but my main worry is money, of course. The city could ill afford it at this time anyway. But if we had to make a decision, it would have to be, to my mind anyway, the competition pool, which encompasses everything, and then it's done with.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of this meeting is to sort of discuss it like we are doing it, because we want to make sure that we get, we need to know what we want, and then we can go back and find the pricing, and then you can start looking to narrow down, and get a more definitive price, and then you can look at it and narrow down. I think I tend to be a little conservative.
Right.
And so if we were going to, move forward and build this, or for us to have the opportunity to build this, I think right now, then that's one of the reasons option 2 is most appealing to me, because I think it's the one that we have the most chance of actually moving forward with sooner rather than later.
I agree with that. What's Commissioner Bridges or Commissioner Harris say about that?
I'm fine.
Or what would you agree with Commissioner Harris, Mayor Pro Tem? Sorry,
As far as
as far as options are concerned. As far as options,
I like, I came in late, so I wasn't able to see all the slides, but I do like Commissioner Bridges' suggestion as far as the competition piece.
right?
I do like of course, I like handicap accessibility. I see you, Mayor. I'll get you. I do like all the options. If you could email me that PowerPoint, please, Ms. Cheek. Go ahead, Ms. Bowen. Or you're going to email? I got you. Okay. Mayor, you had a comment?
Yes, and thank you for that. And I'm really appreciating everybody's conversation. I just had a question for Ms. Cheek with respect to, because the illustration, which of course the Mayor Pro Tem can't see right now, and hopefully, or maybe Ms. Oh, hang on just a second. It looks like I'm freezing. Just a minute there. The option 2, which Ms. Cheek was mentioning, my question is, right now Oxford is just short of 9,000 people. My guess is that in 5 years, we are going to be significantly larger. It just seems like everything points to growth coming our way with the way things are expanding in the Raleigh-Durham area. So my question is, if we proceeded with option 2, it looks a lot smaller than option 1.
It is.
And so it might be perfect for a community of 9,000. But if we experience significant growth, are we going to be in a situation in 6 or 7 years where we're like, oh my God, we can't handle the population that we have? So that's my question.
Right. And this was my worry, that it's sometime if you go for a smaller option, that sometime in the future you will need a larger pool with, and then the cost would be prohibitive really, because you probably have to close the pool down to extend it, rebuild it. So why not just, if we agree to do it in the first place, let's just agree on the single type of pool that we want. And option 1 here is the best one in my mind anyway.
Mayor Pro Tem, may I ask a question? Mr. Chair.
He's muted.
Can I go ahead with the question?
Yeah, I would say so.
My question is, is any consideration been given to a time frame?
Not yet, no.
I'll take that real quick, I guess. I think this is sort of the first step to that. The chair just said he can hear us all. But this is sort of the first step to really narrowing down our cost. And so I guess once we get the cost, then that next discussion would be if we could afford it, if we can't afford it now, what can we afford, or when can we afford it? So I think the cost is really gonna determine our time frame.
Thank you.
He can't unmute. Cindy, can you unmute him?
Tina or Cindy, can you put option 2 up? I'm trying to compare the two from memory.
I don't have the ability to unmute somebody.
Okay. Can you put option 3 up as well, Cindy?
You should be able to click on something, Cindy, that unmutes everybody, and then we can all individually mute ourselves. Maybe if you click mute and then unmute.
Okay, today is just clearly not my day with
There he is.
technology.
Oh, we
So-
can hear you.
We got you now.
We hear you
Okay.
now.
So I sent a chat message to asking Commissioner Bridges if you were going to be able to stay to chair the remainder of the meeting, please, because technology is just not my thing today for some reason. So
I am able to hear you. I don't know if anybody else is.
Yes.
I can hear him.
I've been trying to talk about. Okay.
Well, we
We're
hear
trying
you
to-
now. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I forgot what the question somebody was asking me. What was Tovey, Commissioner Tovey, what were you saying?
No, I think Ron, Commissioner Bullock wanted to see option 3.
Okay, then Commissioner Fields had a question.
Yes, she did.
Did you hear Tina's answer to my question?
I
Commissioner?
did. I did.
Okay, that was it. Thank you, sir.
And the option 3 is there are 4 and 6 lane options for that pool as well, but that's got a larger recreation piece. And it's got the competition piece, and there's a small connection there for those, but it's also got the water play area and the larger slides. I believe this was the most expensive of all of them, but it had the larger actual overall area for the recreation piece as well. So,
And it's not covered.
well, right in the cost estimate, it is not covered.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. None of these are covered in the cost estimate.
Thank you.
Just based on what I've heard, and in terms of what Commissioner Tovey said, and my feelings, and the mayor's comment about growth, I think that I am leaning towards option 1 because it encompasses a lot of what I'm hoping for our community, and that is a pool that can make some money at some point, a pool that is accessible to our senior citizens and younger people. And it seems to me, and I know it's expensive, but I just think option 1 is more in line with, I guess, everybody's feeling. I think option 2 may be too small 4 or 5 years from now, and I mean, I just think the mayor is right in the sense that, we're hoping for growth, a tremendous amount of growth. And I know with Tina's skills and the manager's skills, they're going to be able to bring some competition into this city if we do option 1. So if I had to vote right now, I would lean towards option 1.
No, I'll just add to that even option 3, if you looked at option 3, they've only got 4 lanes, 4 full-length lanes. Any competition pool you go to has to have at least 6 lanes. at least 6, and that's option 1 is the only one that actually does that. So, and if we're looking for revenue, but I mean to say, the next thing we've got to do is look at a timeline. But I want to do that before we can even think about spending any money on studies and things like that. But let's look at a timeline.
Yeah, and again, option 3 does have a 6 lane. Any of these pools you could make really any size, but option 3 could have has a 6 lane option as well. Obviously, it would be a little bit higher than the 1.9 million, but yeah, it has the larger recreation area. So Cindy, can you go back to the first, yeah, just stay there for a second. And I think between going back and forth between there and option 1, because that seems to be, I haven't, I don't know if the chair, what his, did we get a response from him on that? I'm not sure.
He's still on.
I thought I saw a message come up that he had left. Or am I seeing things?
Nope, he has left.
Okay. All right. I believe he mentioned that what Commissioner Bridges had said about the competition piece, maybe, unless I'm hearing something, but I think he was kind of leaning that way too, I believe. So, so I think that kind of ticks the boxes as far as the competition versus recreation. And obviously there will be a lot more discussion on this as we go forward, but that at least would give us a place to start, and we could narrow down this cost estimate and get a true what this would cost to the city. I think sort of the next question, and we've gone back and forth with it a little bit, but is would this be something that you would want to go ahead and build it as an aquatic center indoor, or would you still look at building this outside and then putting a roof over it later? So obviously the cost of putting the roof over it in the future is going to be more. You would have to close it down for a period of time. But the cost initially to the city would be, pretty big too if we went ahead and covered it. So that's why y'all get paid the big bucks.
Oh, wow.
So,
Well, yeah, I'm always of the opinion, if you're going to do something, just go it, do it. And the disruption that it would cause to try and close a pool down, assuming the pool is there, you're going to close the pool down for a number of months to do it all at once. If you're going to do something, do it all at once. Initially, the cost is more, but you're saving money in the long run. And you're less disruption. So if we agree to anything like this, this is the way I would go anyway, with a roof on it, so that it's a full aquatic center.
Is there value? Is this what could be part of the information that could get brought to the board in doing a feasibility study, that the feasibility study could step back and look at what this board wants to accomplish and also discuss rational timelines, given exactly what Commissioner Tovey just said, that that even though it's a big project, if the more you build up front, the more the cost is confined. But if you're going to do that, looking at prospective growth and tax base to support it, maybe giving some financial analysis along with the details of the project itself to how we could do this and when we could do this, and where, you know, also looking at the city as a whole and the Hicks plan and location, is that a reasonable thing to say? Could we ask for this information to be fleshed out in a feasibility study so that the board has more to weigh and measure?
I think that's something I could certainly ask. But, right now, the feasibility study talks about, you know, the cost to run the pool and that sort of thing. It doesn't show as much when the city could actually do it. So that piece isn't, I think they were going to give you that information and then you make that decision. But I could certainly talk with Rachel and see how that could be added into the feasibility study.
Or maybe in the context of population and size. I just think, I wonder if there is a sweet spot with respect to the life in Rucker Park and phasing this in and how we would fund it. If we gather more information, that we would find that, and I think it was Commissioner Bridges that mentioned a timeline, or maybe Commissioner Tovey and Bridges and Fields, that, you know, this is when we should start, or are we gonna, do we need to do a bond issue, and what kinds of things, so that we can establish a timeline that is maybe in keeping with expected growth, so that we have some variety of funding resources in addition to maybe some grant opportunities that we could be applying for.
Yes, I can certainly get some more information on that. I know, sorry, I'm writing as well. But yeah, I can definitely get information on that. I guess the steps in doing this, I mean, would you want to do that as part of the feasibility study, or are you trying to do that before the feasibility? I mean, because we don't know which I go back to, just, this is what, you know, has been said to me during these meetings, is we don't know what it's going to cost to know what we can do. And so I'm not sure what order you want these things done in, because I think sometimes we've put the cart before the horse, or we haven't given you all the cart information, or, you know, so.
And maybe I'm asking for too much. I was involved in the Vance County Farmers Market project years ago. And I remember that we were trying to get funding. Maybe that's it. Maybe they did it in two parts. They figured out the cost of putting up an enclosed farmers market, tried to get funding, and we didn't have the money. And so instead and then there was a feasibility study that assessed the market and the reach and the number of people and whether this area could support that particular project. So I think that's where I'm coming from, in the sense of getting some additional information, so that it's not just us saying, yeah, we want this pool, which, you know, would be extraordinary, but it has some additional information about that to help flesh out the reality of what we're dealing with and how we need to fund it, and when it would be good to embark on a project like this.
Okay.
Can I just say something, and it's to do with the next section about the feasibility study. At this time, especially with the revenues lower than they should be or have been in the past, can we even afford a feasibility study at this stage? I mean, we were talking, what, $28,000 to $30,000. I think Alan would know that, or Huck would know that. But that's a lot of money to put into a study, $30,000.
Does Alan, do you want to speak to that?
No, not really, but I will. Well, I guess a couple of things. You know, a feasibility study, in my opinion, is done for something that you are considering doing and not something that you may have already made up your mind on. So I am hopeful that we have not already made up our mind as to what we're going to do. As far as the money for a feasibility study, we did not budget during this fiscal year, of which we've got 5 months left, to conduct a feasibility study for a swimming pool. So, you know, from the budget officer's standpoint, the budget officer would of course much prefer that the funding for a feasibility study be included in the actual budget, because what will transpire is we'll have to rob from Peter to pay Paul if we want to do it now, and or take it from the general fund balance, because and I know where the conversation is going to go next, and that will be that, you know, we have been putting money aside for a swimming pool for X amount of years, and that is really technically not the case. I mean, the city has not set money aside in a capital projects fund for a swimming pool. It may have been done during a conversation of the board saying we want to put X amount of money aside for every year. And there is a belief that that money is sitting in a pot somewhere, and it is, but it's called your fund balance, just like all the rest of it for your general fund. It is not specially designated separately at this point in time, because there was never a capital project fund established to do just that, where you are earmarking every single year through the budget process X amount of dollars. So the budget officer basically would say, you can do anything that you choose to do because you have the voting authority to do so, and you are the elected officials of the city of Oxford who control essentially the purse strings of the citizens' tax dollars and the coffers of the city of Oxford. But in reality, money has not been budgeted in this year's budget to perform a feasibility study, and we would have to take action in order to essentially do that. One way or the other. It really depends upon how you wish to go. I will also add that, you know, if you're looking at options 1, 2, and 3, options 1 and option 3 are basically the same expense. I mean, you're looking at that same cost for option 1 or option 3. So, you know, the only question to me is if you're going forward is option 2 or option 1. Because option 1 gives you the 6 lanes versus 4, and why you'd want to do 4 at the same cost you could do 6, I don't know. But so that's kind of where I'm sitting, and you know, I think we really need to be conscientious of the fact that was brought up at our last meeting where we were looking at this information, knowing that this is the information provided by the consultant is non-site specific, and it also does not include any of the supporting infrastructure necessary for the pool, meaning that you can double this cost quite easily, if not more, in order to get everything there and in. Also, from the budget officer's standpoint, I dare say you're looking at $250,000 to $300,000 to $400,000 a year to operate this facility. And I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but you are not going to make money on a swimming pool. You will have some revenue coming in from charges for people to utilize the facility, but you're not going to make money on a swimming pool. I mean, we don't make money running the baseball tournaments. If you actually compare it to the cost of what it takes on to put on the tournaments, have the personnel, prepare the fields, on and on and on and on, we don't make money. Recreation, I have always looked upon recreation as essentially, it's a public service. You don't make money from recreational activities. If you tried to, you'd price everybody out and you would have nobody participating. So you have to look at recreation in such a way as, are we providing, being recreation, parks, rec, cultural, all those types of things, the arts, things that the citizens of the city now and in the future want, and would draw people to remain and come to Oxford. That's really the way that you have to look at, the provision of some of these services, of which recreation is. So, I don't ever encourage or recommend a board consider a recreational facility or a project or a program in terms of will it make money or not. It is, will it serve the public and their desires, and what are we trying to accomplish in providing this service that you really should be considering versus making money. I mean, even if you build it to the point of trying to encourage swim competitions coming in, you're going to have to remember you're in competition with the Wake counties of the world who are also trying to hold swim competitions. So I'm afraid those swim competitions to me would be few and far between and not sufficient enough for you to make significant numbers of dollars. So to me, that's just the reality of the situation. So getting back to the feasibility study, I know I've rambled on too long. You don't have money in the budget now. If you want to make money available in the budget, we could bring a couple of options back to the board as to where it could potentially come from by either looking at where we stand after 5 months and what remains, or basically take that money out of the fund balance in order to pay for it if we want to do it within this fiscal year of 2021.
I'm actually surprised to hear. I'm shocked that monies that a earlier board indicated that they wanted to go into a pot towards a swimming pool really didn't exist, and that actually it was just added to the fund balance. I actually thought that when we voted some years ago, that there really was a fund that was specifically earmarked for a swimming pool in the future. So that's surprising to me, and because that was not the way I thought that those monies were being set aside. That being said, I think that if we're going to talk about using the taxpayers' dollars in a reasonable manner, I think we do ourselves a disservice if we don't have some kind of feasibility study to kind of see how we going forward. I would like us to have a pool. So, as far as if I had to vote right now, I'd say, yeah, build a pool. But on the other side of that, as a commissioner, I certainly would like to see something that sort of tells me how we can do it in parts. But if and of course you have more experience in this than I do, Mr. Thornton. If you say that a competition swimming pool isn't going to make any money, then that, I don't know, that's a little bit different than what I kind of heard from Tina. And I didn't know that our softball competitions didn't at least earn revenues that benefited the city. I would like to see a pool built. I mean, I thought about a competition pool only because I thought it would generate money, but I will just take a pool that's open to all of our citizens, little Black kids, little Indian kids, little Hispanic kids, as well as white kids. So that's what I want. Now, whether we have competitions, I just kind of went along with that because, if we can make some money with a swimming pool, all great. That maybe that'll calm some of the nerves of folks who don't want to spend the money. But my whole goal is that the whole community have a pool they can swim in. And I'm hoping parents don't mind their children swimming with children that don't look like theirs.
I want to thank Alan for that outline, because this is what's good about these discussions, is that we learn things all the time. And although I'd heard rumors in the past about the annual operating costs of a big pool like that, and the fact that maybe it wouldn't make money, you've got to rethink things. So, and at the moment, this is an ongoing discussion. So at the moment now, my mind is going towards what Tina said, and that is purely a recreational pool, the small pool for children, for adults, for those that are slightly disabled, may not be able to get into it, rather than a competition pool. And maybe without the roof or something, something that can be used in the spring and summer months and the fall months. So that's why these discussions are good, because you get more and more information from people. And I thank Alan for that, because that's opened my mind up a little bit more. But so thank you for that. Just my thoughts.
You're welcome. If I can add something else real quickly, I hope it doesn't come across as that I'm against the pool. I'm not. I hope the board agrees, paid for my expertise, professionalism, recommendation, experience, all of those things. And I'm trying to convey that to you. Expounding on the conversation or the comment that I was making about the competition pool. I mean, if you're looking towards the future of Oxford, and we believe that it is going to grow in future years, I would also hope that the hope is there that, our local schools would develop swim teams. And, then you have the opportunity to have those things here and have swim meets and things like that if you have the facility. The swim meets, just the concept of making it a competition pool to have it earn money, I think that's the wrong way of looking at it, because it's just not going to. Will it make some money? Will there be revenue coming in? Yes, but the point is, the money you have coming in will never offset the cost of the pool and its operation. It just won't. I'm sorry. So you need to be looking at it from the perspective of, does this meet a need or a demand, or how we see our community growing in its wants and desires? And along with, is it the proper time for us to do so? And a feasibility study could help with that. I think if you push the right switches, so to speak, in getting that information, maybe. But I will also throw out there that, the swimming pool itself is a single component of what got started as a master plan for parks and recreation. And, we have not yet gone back to potentially approving that document. And one of the comments that was made when we started talking about the master plan, it serves as a 10-year window. Part of the objective of getting that in place is for the city to potentially pursue grant funding for projects like this. You will never get any grant funding unless you have that in place. And I mean, whatever we choose to do, the city of Oxford would pursue at a minimum, grant funding through Parks and Recreation Trust Fund to assist us in constructing this facility. And their maximum is $500,000. So, you could potentially get some funding there. I can't guarantee that you would get it, but you'll never get it unless you have a master plan that includes the pool in your submittal application. So all of these things kind of work together. I do agree that if you choose to build the pool and you have the vision for it serving a larger population and doing so year round, then the pool needs to be built at this time to accommodate that being a year-round or an indoor facility, rather than coming back and trying to retrofit it, because you'll be in there with heavy equipment, potentially cracking the concrete in the pool that you have existing and doing all those kinds of things, as well as tearing up the site. So, it does make sense to build it to fit the need. From the outset, it's one of those kinds of things that, you don't want to go back in there and disturb it as best if you can possibly avoid it, because of all the damage that it'll create. So you want to build it the way you want to build it to begin with, which means, is it the right time? Can you afford it? And when I say afford it, we're also looking at all the other things that come with growing the city of Oxford. And, we talked about growing pains a number of times. This is one of those growing pain type of scenarios that what needs to come when and where, because, you've worked really hard at trying to get the city back to some financial stability to prepare the city for moving forward. And, we're talking about a lot of debt and debt service coming up here in the next few years that we've got to deal with. And I don't know, I would hate for us to do something without some really, really good thought being put into it. And that's what we're doing. So, I hope nobody has the perspective of I'm trying to throw a monkey into the wrench here, because I'm not. I just want us to make sure that what we're doing is very, very well thought out and well planned, and it comes with consideration to everything else that is trying to be accomplished for the city of Oxford to grow and progress.
Okay, so is the chairman gone?
Yeah, you're chairing the meeting.
You're in charge.
Well, I have one question, one comment, actually. I am still fairly new to this committee, and I was sitting here looking through our budget and looking over some other stuff, and I've heard that there was money set aside for this pool, and it has happened in our meetings. I mean, so if we do not have that money set aside, we need to stand corrected in the language that we're using, because I've heard it.
True.
And this is not acceptable. I mean, so we need to do better in making sure that we're understanding and conveying what is true, because it has been said since I've been on this board. And so we're not even talking about something that some board did many moons ago. That language has been used.
I think what happened, Commissioner, is that this was something that our board discussed. Ooh, I can't even remember which manager, but I think
2012.
Is that when it was? So 2012.
My first year on the board.
Was okay. So maybe I can't remember if Mark Dunham was still in place or Randy Heeman just got in place. So Randy probably didn't. It's quite possible that was his first time his first experience as a manager. He came out of downtown development, and I suspect that they didn't understand exactly what needed to be done to make sure this was happening with consistency and being set aside appropriately.
Commissioner Herring made the motion when he was on the board.
That year,
Set aside money to
10,000.
for a pool every year. Commissioner Herring. So
Oh, I remember that. I mean, I mentioned it at our last conversation is, can't we take that pot of money and use it for the feasibility study? So I think the issue is that it wasn't followed through, as all of us who heard that exchange thought that we imagined what was happening and it wasn't happening.
Okay, guys. So that just goes to show as commissioners that one, we're going to have to pay closer attention. Two, we're going to have to see it in writing and follow up with these type things and hold each other accountable, because this is deplorable. I mean, people are looking to us and have elected us, and now we're having these questions about something that happened in 2012 and nothing has been done. We can do better than this. And we should expect ourselves to do better than this and not be mad with each other when we ask these tough questions. Because if we had asked the tough questions, we probably wouldn't be entertaining this having this conversation today. Wow, this is
you know, I don't know. Mayor Pro Tem, I didn't know he was going to leave. I thought that he was having some technical difficulties, but that was corrected and that he was going to stay on. But if you were looking for a vote from the Recreation Committee, can we do it now without our chairman? Because I personally feel that in all candor, I would have to have a feasibility study. I mean, you know, I don't think there's any way around it. You know, and if it means taking some monies that I thought was being put aside for a pool, you know, that's what I would want to do. Now we can call another meeting when our chairman is present, but I know that I personally would want to have some kind of feasibility study so that I can visually and in writing can see what the city is committing itself to. I mean, you know, if you ask me right now, do I want a pool? I don't think anybody has any question about my answer, you know, but if you ask me, am I doing it in a responsible manner without looking at something or doing some kind of feasibility study, I couldn't do it. And you know, I don't know how Commissioner Tovey feels about it, but you know, I think before we send it to the board, isn't it something that the Recreation Committee has to?
We have to recommend it. Yeah.
Well, I guess, Mr. Tovey, I guess the question would be, how do you feel about a feasibility study? And that'll be 2 votes. I don't know.
If you had asked me an hour ago, I would have said we can't afford it. But I agree with you that if we're going to go ahead with this, we haven't even made a decision yet. But yeah, you can't make a decision without a study. But can we really afford it? That's the problem. I mean, $30,000 we're talking of, I believe that was the price, $28,000 to $30,000. That's a lot of money. So are we going to wait 5 months till the next fiscal year, or are we going to have to try and find this money from somewhere else? But yeah, if you'd asked me half an hour ago, I would have said I don't want to spend $30,000 on a study on a pool that we can't afford at this time. But you're right, we need to look at we do need to look at the costs involved. And if a study's the only way to do it. But is there a way that we can do it cheaper than $30,000? I don't know. Mayor.
And I know and Commissioner Fields also has a question. I just wanted to point out that 5 months is maybe not so much time. And the manager brought up an excellent point, which is that finding funding also depends on approval of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So maybe what can go back to the board, and certainly we have an agenda meeting tonight, so we could discuss it further. There is the idea that we put back on the table at the next meeting, approving the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, because we are moving forward on the concept of assessing the viability of doing a pool, and putting the money in the 21-22 budget. I mean, my guess is if it gets in the budget, that the manager knows that there can be some upfront work done to start looking at setting everything up so that we can embark on a feasibility study right away in July. That we should be willing to spend what is needed so we can get the thorough picture that we need. And that's my comment. And Commissioner Fields, I'll back off. I apologize.
That's quite okay. Two questions. How do we go about correcting written words in the monies that we thought were being set aside for a pool? That's one. And to piggyback on what the manager was saying about a pool not being money generating, the pool itself may not be money generating, but the fallout from, I'm going to say, the leagues that come to Oxford to participate in the ball games, the money that the city of Oxford is generating by people going to the restaurants, staying at the hotels, the city still benefits from outside entities coming to these events in the city of Oxford, whether it actually pays for itself, is another thing, but we do benefit from these activities. Saying that to say, a pool or aquatic center, the outside monies may not pay for it to sustain itself individually, but we would profit from it. That's just my thoughts.
Just a thought, refer back to what the mayor was saying. I was actually going to make a suggestion that we do put that 10-year master plan back on the agenda so we can vote on it. And at least that way, with the pool information in the agenda or in the master plan, at least we can get that passed. And as the mayor says, we can move forward with that plan then. Commissioner Fields made a good point about generating revenue not directly involved with the pool, which would be good. I mean, we know local businesses will benefit from visitors to Oxford for the pool. And the third thing I'd like to say is with reference to Commissioner Gilreath, in future, that if we do have anything that we want to put money aside, that it goes onto a line item on the budget. So at least it's
I thought it was a line item.
It's not a line item apparently, so it should have, maybe it should have been in 2012. I wasn't here then, so in future, if we're moving forward, that if we
Exactly.
do want anything put aside, it should go on to a line item. And that way-
I noted that, John, already.
All right.
Just to clarify, that I think that's what happened, but the issue with the general fund is that, oh, I'm sorry, I'm breaking up again. As soon as, hang on, let me stop the video there. As soon as the fiscal year ends, any surplus just reverts to the pot in general. In order to have a specific set aside where it stays set aside, you have to have it in a separate capital improvement, very specific to the pool. That's my understanding from the manager.
Well, all I can say is there was no doubt that we commissioners who were in support of having a pool were under the impression that monies were being put into a category that was specifically for a swimming pool. Now, we can doodle around with this all we want. But the bottom line was, when the commissioners who supported the motion made by Commissioner Herring, we were under the impression that this money was being put into a specific pot to be used to get a swimming pool. And this other stuff about had to be put in some capital project never came up. And if it had come up, I'd have said, okay, let's put it in a capital project so that we make sure that money was going where we thought it was going.
Well,
was there anything else we needed to, I'm sort of jumping in here, I guess, as running this particular meeting, but the bottom line is, was there anything else that we needed to discuss, Tina, relative to this meeting?
No, sir. I think
Okay.
thank you for stepping in for this. Basically, it's your recommendation as a committee, how you want to take this back to the board as far as moving forward with the feasibility study, or at least choosing an option and then the board deciding on the feasibility study. So there's some different options there. And I guess Alan or Cindy would have to answer the question about, can you make that recommendation if there's only two of you? So
I would just like to say that my recommendation would be, for the first things first, is we got to accept the 10-year master plan. We get back that on the agenda, we can pass that, and then we can start vigorously talking about the pool, the feasibility study. But the first thing is we must pass that master plan. So we need to, if we can get that back on the agenda for next week's meeting. Do you agree with that, Commissioner Bridges?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with us voting on the master plan. Are we going to try to do that in the agenda meeting tonight or not?
I think if I can make a suggestion that we add it to the agenda for the meeting, can we do that, Ms. Bowen?
You should make that during the meeting.
I'll make that during the meeting, yeah.
I mean, you have the opportunity at every meeting to adjust your agenda. So I would recommend that at the beginning of the meeting, you make that request and have the board vote on amending the agenda.
Right, we can do that. Okay.
But I have a question though. If part of the issue with the pool is that it wasn't in the master plan, by us voting on the master plan, aren't we excluding it then from the master plan only to come back and pick it up later? And that doesn't seem like that's what we should be doing. Because if we vote on the master plan and say, yes, we're going to do all of this, that would preclude probably the pool being added if we have an amphitheater and all of that other stuff that was in the master plan.
I think the master plan had been adjusted to include the pool.
It had.
There was a pool mentioned in the master plan. There was just no specifics, but the general agreement was there would be a pool within the master plan. And I believe that was in the plan, Tina?
Yeah.
The first one was a splash pool, and then we adjusted it to incorporate a pool, whether it be recreational or what have you. That was to be further decided, but it was amended to specifically say a public swimming pool rather than a splash pool.
Okay.
And they're actually two different things. The 10-year master plan is the overall department's plan. So it shows the surveys and a lot of other information. It is not specific to the pool at all. It's not specific to anything. It's more department function, that sort of thing. The complex plan, Hicks complex plan, which is also considered a Hicks master plan. That's what's specific to the pool and has the pool now in it.
Yes.
But the 10-year plan is not the pool.
But how do you separate the two?
There, you can, again, the 10-year plan is for the entire department. It's not specific to say, we want a baseball field here and a pool here. It's sort of how the department's gonna look in the future and things we need to focus on and goals and objectives and things like that. The site-specific master plan, you can do those really any time for any site. So we could, choose the Armory or say Granville Street or Oxford Park, a different phase of Oxford Park. And that's really what y'all are talking about when you're talking about the pool piece, is that site-specific master plan for Hicks itself. But we can.
Yeah, and I will note that just even that site-specific plan for Hicks Fields probably represents $40 to $50 million. If you were to go out there and do everything today on there. So the point is that, you are never going to go out and implement and pay for everything envisioned in a Parks and Recreation master plan. You're just not. You may choose to focus on some components of that master plan that you wish to implement during that 10-year time period of which the master plan is applicable before you do another 10 years and look at it again. Such as, I want a trail out here and I would like to focus on this because walkability is our biggest thing, and all those types of things. But a Parks and Recreation master plan, if you just took it on its face, represents tens of millions of dollars. And, you're just, not unless you have unlimited resources available to you, would you ever go out and do that? So what it does is it focuses on what your citizens want, how you see it growing, what their goals and objectives are, and gives you the opportunity to focus on one or two. And then you've got it in your master plan and you can pursue grant funding to help you do that.
All right, look, this meeting has gone quite long, and I know we have an agenda meeting this afternoon. So, I guess we'll just carry on this conversation, but I'll certainly, unless there's something else somebody desperately needs to say, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All right, it's been moved. Any further discussion? All right, see y'all at the agenda meeting.
I'll call you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks.